what you're thinking is not in alignment with another thing that you're thinking. So like this inconsistency internally inside of your mind, right? So this can show up in a lot of different ways, but this is a great example. So let's say a player is being held accountable by a coach. Like a player is like experiencing like a lesson a coach is trying to teach them. Maybe the coach is saying, hey, you need to work harder or pay attention to detail just a little bit better, whatever it is, man. The player all of a sudden feels sort of attacked because maybe they had a belief about their identity that they are a hard worker or they are a person who pays attention to detail. And then so what they do is they sort of deflect, they make excuses like, oh, I'm just really tired or something. And then the coach just, says, hey, I understand, but they keep holding them accountable. You need to work harder. And the player, what they do is they sort of just avoid, they push the coach away because that coach is not telling them what they want to hear. They're not confirming their beliefs about their own identity. And so you just leave teams. It happens all the time. Parents do it too. It's not just players, but coaches do it too. Everyone does it to some extent. But once you're aware of this phenomenon, it's a lot easier to kind of combat it. So as a player and as a parent, it's really important to understand that reality is sort of paramount when it comes to like your development. For example, in baseball, what you see a lot is, I know a lot of guys who are afraid to get in front of the radar gun. Like they don't want to face that number because like everyone wants to throw hard in baseball. It's like everyone wants to throw 90 miles an hour. But in order to do that, you have to get in front of the radar gun. Like you have to see what your number is. Otherwise, like you'll never throw 90 if you don't ever get gunned, right? But the problem is like a lot of people are just afraid to see the 67, instead of 90, right? And so there's sort of a dissonance there though, because obviously you need to do that thing in order to get to your goal. So it's really like the coping mechanism for that though is usually avoidance. And so like you just avoid that situation altogether so you can keep lying to yourself. Like if I never get in front of the radar gun, I can lie to myself and say I throw 95 miles per hour. But if I never actually test it, it's probably not true, but I can just tell myself that's true. And so that's where that cognitive dissonance comes in because I believe I can throw 95, or at least I tell myself that. But deep down, I know that's not true because I never actually get in front of the radar gun. And so that's where that comes in. And so back to the softball example or the travel ball example, you see this in softball a lot. It's like a lot of players want coaches that tell them exactly what they want to hear. They avoid the coaches that hold them accountable because they don't want to face the reality. They just want to avoid, their coping strategy is just avoid reality, And so you get a lot of players who think that they are better than they are, I suppose, or like parents too. And this is ultimately harmful for the player. I'm not like here preaching like, oh, we need to be harder on kids and be more truthful or whatever. It's more just like it's harmful for the player to have this cognitive dissonance because ultimately they can't improve if they can't see reality. Like if they can't see where they're actually at, it's hard to go up from there. If you think you're at a certain level, you just keep telling yourself that, and that keeps getting reinforced by the parents and your coaches, then you're never actually going to improve because the reality is you're at a much lower level than what everyone else is putting into your life. So how do we solve this? First of all, get good coaches. Good coaches hold people accountable, and they hold themselves accountable. They hold everyone in the organization accountable. And that's really, really important. And sometimes you just have to look at the truth. We all have to do that, right? And then the other thing too is start to identify yourself, positively. The idea is like cognitive dissonance is not, you don't actually believe what you're sort of coping about. Like back to the radar gun example. I actually have thrown 95 miles an hour before, like on a radar gun. But if, let's say I couldn't, but I just never got gunned and I just thought that I did, now in this situation, like I believe that I can, but I actually don't. And I know that. Like I know that I don't throw 95 deep down. And that's where that stress comes in. And now I need like a coping strategy to get through it. And so what I need to do is start taking actionable steps to actually throw 95, get in the weight room, do mobility, get my nutrition on point. I'll probably have to get bigger and stronger, right? So bulk, eat more protein, whatever. Sleep better. That's going to improve my explosive output, reaction time, like coordination and like everything, right? So I would start doing stuff like that, identifying as a person who does those things that I can control, because I can control my training, you know? And now you can't necessarily control it. You throw 95 or not everyone can. I don't know. And it's possible. I think most athletes can get close to 90 in baseball, but there is sort of like a genetic limit for a lot of people. And that's not something you can control at all. You can't control injuries, right? Like, all you can control is your training. So you just lock in on that. Identify as someone who is like super, super good at training and has all these like really good systems that they follow every single day. Like a good one is just like 1,000 calories before 10 a.m. Like when you wake up, just eat some eggs, toast with peanut butter and some yogurt. Boom, you got 1,000 calories, like 80 grams of protein. Do that every day. You're going to gain some velo just naturally as a baseball player, like straight up, because you're just going to get stronger, bigger. All that, those nutrients are going to go, to your muscles and help with a lot of different bodily functions, obviously. But just create systems. Like that's a good example. Like 1,000 calories before 10 a.m. That's a lot to ask for some high school athletes. If you're a younger athlete watching this, you might need your parents to help you. But those are good skills to learn too. Just like cooking, like meal prep, like these kinds of things will pay dividends, because in college you need to do that, right? So like if you're 14 watching this, or you're a parent of a 14-year-old, that should be like a huge priority, is like creating a system where that kid is able to meal prep and eat a lot of food, quality food, that's going to support their athleticism throughout the day, and just do that every day. And then maybe a system for lifting is like before lift, because, no matter how motivated you are, no matter how many David Goggins videos you watch, like you're probably not going to be super motivated to lift at 6 a.m. So what you can do is put your clothes out, like on your dresser or something, put your alarm there too, put a water bottle, maybe with some pre-workout or whatever, it's going to wake you up. So you have to get up physically to turn off the alarm. Your clothes are right there, put them on, walk out the door, got the caffeine, you're good to go, man, right? So those kind of systems that you can put in place, they'll help you start to get that stuff done. And then you'll identify as someone who actually all of a sudden is a hard worker. And you identify as that. Now when someone challenges you on it, even if they do, which they probably won't at that point, but if they do, you won't get so defensive. You won't avoid it. You won't have to go find a new coach, because you're a hard worker. What happens is when people have to avoid that, like they have to avoid being held accountable, it's because they know whoever is holding them accountable is right. That's why, so, and that's just the truth, and so that's why we need coaches who do that. But also, like, if you get defensive and you get avoidant when that kind of stuff happens, it just means they're right. And so you sort of have to like have a little bit of an ego death and just like calm down a little bit, and then you can start from where you're at, But all in all, guys, create systems. You can control your training. Once you start locking that in, and there's plenty of ideas for training on my channel if you need help with that, lock that in, and now you'll identify as someone who is working hard towards gaining whatever goals you want. Like it could be throwing 95, like that's the example we had in this video, or maybe it's getting a scholarship or whatever it is. But identify as someone who is working hard and doing all the right things to get those things. And then all of a sudden you won't feel that cognitive dissonance. You'll feel less stress. That also kind of gets rid of like the whole idea of like switching teams all the time because you don't like your coaches or whatever, that's just not good for the culture, So, but what is like being a grinder, like doing the stuff that you need to do. And like, that's a really positive environment. Those are the kinds of kids I like to work with and have in my facility. Because they just want to get after it and they want to control what they can control. They understand that a scholarship isn't in their control, or throwing 95 isn't in their control. Who cares about that stuff? Because like, guys, the reality is we could die tomorrow. You could tear your ACL tomorrow. Who cares about the results? Just lock into what you can control, because that will pay dividends in the future. It'll help you with every aspect of your life. And I hope you guys understand too, this isn't even about baseball. It's about everything, right?